All right, let's have a little money look here, shall we? Now, this is what we're dealing with for the upcoming season, man. 2026 offseason. The Saints right now are at 15.4 million in the red. Now, how about that? How about that, family? We're 15.4 million. Let me give a clap to that. Now, I don't give a clap. I don't usually give a clap to half-ass and bad book managing, but at the end of the day, based on what we were seeing over the last 3 to 4 years, when we had monies north of $100 million, y'all remember that? Put one in the chat if you remember that, or 80 million, or 60 plus million. And then to see the Saints at 15.4 million in the red, man, I had to hit the clap button on that one, man, because that is phenomenal. 15.4 plus you have all of the talent that you have here that's in place. That'll be really awesome to see. So let's kind of look at this, man, as we kind of peer into 2026, baby. Active 4 total, according to, this is over the cap, giving you the game. You see Taysom's salary, his contract voids. Elvin's on the book for 11.5 mil. That'll be renegotiated. I promise you that. We got like maybe 7 or 8 double-digit contracts. Chris Olave's deal is at 15.4. I think he's the most expensive of the current contracts. They're going to be a negotiation, or not a restructuring. Let's just put it to you like that. A restructuring of these monies. Elvin at 11.5. Cam, see him voided. We'll see that change. They'll rework a deal with Cam Jordan for an additional year. Now, he had multiple voided years on his deal. I'm pretty sure Mickey Loomis will do that for him and Demario Davis. You can see you can see right there the prorated signing bonus money that they still own, but we'll see the voided. They'll rework I want to say a more cap friendly, a cap compliant or free, like friendlier deal. Let's just say that, because when you got people like Cam and Demario that's motivated, they don't want to go anywhere. So leverage to kind of bend and flex to say, okay, we're going to leave and go, you don't want to pay me this money, I'm going to the 49ers. I'm doing all this kind of stuff. They're not going to do that. They're going to be like, okay, we'll renegotiate. We don't have to make big time money. We've been here for years. Let's give you, they're going to give them a cap friendly deal. They'll get their money, don't get me wrong, but it'll be a friendly contract for the Saints monetary situation, so they can continue to flex forward and get and pay for the younger players that's pushing like a Chris Olave. Even though we got 15.4, that number would drop once they renegotiate his contract. Once they renegotiate, because they do have that on him, being he's a first rounder. They have that extra year to pay him the 15.4, so he's still there. Now, in terms of, you got Eric McCoy at 10 million flat, that's going to be a renegotiation. Chase Young at 14.8, that's going to be a renegotiation. Carl Granderson at 10.7. Cesar Ruiz is 9.5. You can see him making that, or Jawan Johnson. So you can see him working these deals. Even Justin Reed at 9.2. Restructuring's happening, and they can roughly get, once that happens, family, the Saints can go as much as $20+ million, between $20 to $25 million in the black once the restructurings go, because Mickey's going to do that. But if you look at everything, like I said, this is an extremely agreeable situation. They're not going to not stop restructuring. Now that the balance of what has happened has flipped to the point where they feel like, Mickey Loomis feel like, hey man, hold on, we're justified. Hold on, I told you guys. I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna be a bad accountant. No, I know. The hell with you guys. I'm the mighty Mickey Loomis. And you can see bad management. He's gonna continue to do it, because what ends up happening is it'll kick the Saints. They'll have more than enough money to be able to then bend into free agency market and be able to sign whoever they want to sign. But the big question is how active. Jerry says, "Shut up, Mickey." How active? Let me ask y'all guys that. Tell me in the chat, man. Answer me this, fam. Y'all hit the like button and then kind of walk me through this. Help me understand this. How active do you think the Saints will be in free agency? How active do you think the New Orleans Saints will be in free agency? Do you think they'll be major league active in free agency? Even though we've understood the Saints they have a philosophy where they want to build through the draft. How active do you think the Saints will be in free agency? To sign guys, like, I ain't talking about lower tier guys like on the back realms of the free agency market. You pick up a veteran, a old defensive lineman or old offensive lineman on a vet minimum, and I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about some of being active in maybe the top 20 or 25 free agents that come out. Say for instance, there's a Tyler Shough out there. Will the Saints go after him? Y'all let me know. Not just for that player, but period, in terms of the top 25 or 30 free agents that'll be available in this cycle. Do you think the Saints will be active in acquiring or getting one or two or three of those guys? Or do you really think that it'll be mostly about the draft? Y'all let me know. Put it in the chat. I'll spotlight you. But this is some of the stuff we talking about. So 15.4, getting your offensive and your defensive identity out of a 6-11 year, coming out of it hugely with the dead. And I'm going to go all the way down here to the dead money, because this is where it is. The Saints, look at that dead money, 65.7 million plus in dead money. The Derek Carr fiasco was huge in Major League. We avoided a real bullet in that, but you still have dead money. You got 36.6 plus million in dead money from just him alone. He represents over half of the dead money on Carr's contract. You take him off of that number is like 30 something million. It's less than 30 million. He by himself is half this list. Ryan Ramczyk was a player who couldn't play because you know why? He couldn't. If he was healthy, he would be playing. Tyron just says, I've had enough. 7.2. Colin Saunders, we traded him on up out of here. Same thing, we released Cooks because he couldn't be used. JT Gray, we decided to go another way and get Stallbird. Isaiah Foskey, you already know that. Cedric Wilson, y'all already know. Rashid Shaheed, they wasn't going to pay him. And Jake Haener is just Jake Haener. So you can justify all these other players, but that Derek Carr thing stinks. But it's 30.6 on that, 65.7 million in dead money. So like I said, the not so difficult this year in terms of the cap being just 15.4 in the red. Several restructures we get you in the black, relatively fast. But then also there are the contracts like, the renegotiating of the contract of one like Chris Olave, him getting the bread that he wants. And of course, once you renegotiate Chris Olave's contract, that I don't think it's not going to be a double digit number. It'll probably fall anywhere between $4 to $8 million on that first year before it goes up to whatever double digits on the second year or whatever it is. Usually a creeping schedule signing, when you sign these deals, it's a step thing. It's a back end step, like you'll get 8 point whatever it is, and then the next year to be 12, then 15 and 20 and whatever it is. And then Mickey will just keep negotiating back and back and back and kick the money into the future like he's been doing for the last 1,000 years. But yeah, this is the big thing about his free agency, and what is his evaluation? They say is his valuation at $20.1 million. That's the estimated cost that they're talking about that he's looking at for this upcoming season. And they got receivers that's making 19, 20 plus. Chris Olave, one of those, and I guarantee you that's what they're looking for. They're looking for that amount of money. Is Mickey Loomis going to pay that for Chris Olave? Time will tell. It's taken a long time too, because like I've said earlier, we haven't heard anything on that. All right, so outside of that, man, like I said, Alontae Taylor's a guy that's unrestricted, man, and I'm going to tell you guys, we might not get both of them back. I mean, maybe Chris Olave, because they admitted to the negotiation, but Alontae Taylor is there as well. It might, we'll see, man. All right, man. Anyway, let me hit y'all up and let y'all know on the same time, man, as we continue to move forward, because a lot of great things popping in the city of New Orleans and the region because of what's happening with the New Orleans Saints. This is kind of a brief thing that we're talking about here for the Saints. It's finished 6-11. You can see there. They're saying estimated cap is $26.5 million. Over the cap has a different number. I think it's more closer to what the over the cap is 15.4. They're saying that. So we'll see when it's official. But what's the top priority here, fam? What is the top offseason priority? Make decisions about veterans. Linebacker Demario Davis will be 37 in January. Defensive end Cam Jordan will turn 37 next summer. Both have voiding contracts, but they have continued to play at high levels despite their age. Saints will need to decide whether to bring them back, as well as 35-year-old Taysom. If not, they could get younger at those positions. The bottom line is just my opinion. Y'all give me yours. I think Double D and Cam Jordan come back on team-friendly deals. I don't know if it'll be the vet minimum. I don't think it'll be the vet minimum. It'll be higher to me than the vet minimum, but I think it'll still be an agreeable deals for both people, because they don't have much leverage, because they don't want to go anywhere else. They want to stay. So I think it'll be team-friendly deals that will keep both Double D and Cam Jordan for an additional year. Taysom Hill, I think more than likely is out of here. I think Foster Monroe is done. I think those guys are out of here. And that's what it is. So Cam and Double D, yes. Taysom, more than likely, no. What is one secondary priority to watch? What's the secondary priority? surround rookie quarterback Tyler Shough with a better offense. Very simple, right? He was playing with a cast of backups by the end of the season due to injuries, but every healthy Saint offense needs a refresh. The Saints need to get Shough some pass catchers and build around him in free agency or the draft. Shout out to Kat Terrell. That's her analysis, and that's true. You found your quarterback. Fam, that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part. The hardest part is that you found your quarterback. How many teams can say that? Half the NFL can't say that. Indianapolis Colts can't say that. I ain't gonna go down all the teams, man. go down all the teams. But it's a lot. Y'all know who they are. It's a lot of teams out there. The Jets, all these other. It's a bunch of teams out there that have not found their quarterback. You and we, me, everybody. We had the Who Dat, the mighty Who Dat Nation, to found their quarterback. We found Shough. Now we have to continue to build around him. Now, granted, and I'm gonna bring up the unofficial depth chart momentarily so we can kind of take a look at it. But what we're saying is, fam, the toughest part of the game is finding the quarterback that you believe in. We found that guy. We got Tyler Shough here. We got to build an offensive line. That's number one to me. Is the one thing that I'm looking at here is building an offensive line around him. Now we do have the bookends. The bookends are fine. Kelvin Banks Jr., Tali Fuaga will be totally healthy. So with Kelvin was dealing with an ankle, kind of limped off the field, but these guys will be good to go when games matter. So we have the bookends. Right here it is. Here, let me share this with y'all. It's a good visual. This is right now. This is what we're dealing with. So as you can see, Tyler Shough here, Kelvin Banks and Tali Fuaga inside Fortner, which I said Fortner should be re-signed. I think he did enough to obviously be re-signed. I think he's a good veteran to have for the likes of Eric McCoy, because like I've been saying so before, Eric McCoy, got love for Eric McCoy, but for over the last 4 years, McCoy's missed 20 plus games over just the last 4 year span, which is letting you know that it's tough in the NFL and people's bodies start breaking down. So you have to kind of hedge your best. So the Saints did a good job in getting Luke Fortner in a trade for Bink Saunders. We won the hell out that trade because the Jaguars later on cut Bink Saunders. He ended up with the Jets. So he didn't look too good in that game we was playing him. So he went all the way from the Saints to the Jets. That's not. But the bottom line is we won that trade. And I don't think it'll be expensive to bring Luke Fortner back. I would sign Luke Fortner. He looked really, as the year went on, Luke Fortner looked really solid as a backup. So having him there, and he's already familiar with what you're doing offensively, after having all the reps because McCoy was hurt, is a major plus. So you would want to sign him as a backup for the likes of Eric McCoy. Dylan Redunce, in my opinion, is I would not resign Dylan Redunce. It was a 1 year deal. I will look elsewhere. I think Dylan Redunce is thank you for your service, and we're going to have to find somebody else that's better than that. Ultimately, I think it should be, whether it's fixed in free agency, that probably could be a position where the Saints spend money on in free agency to get a quality veteran there, or simply decide to address it in the draft, because they got several key players in the draft at the guard position that can help. But one early on, maybe in the second round too, but there are a couple of guys in the draft that can help you in the second and third rounds if you're looking for that. So, but they'll have options there. Dylan Redunce, no sir. Luke Fortner, yes. Cesar Ruiz, the Saints came close to rumors about trading Cesar Ruiz. He's been up and down and all around. His technique is not all that. I don't know if Kellen Moore pulls the trigger on getting rid of Cesar Ruiz. I would, but I don't know if they do. I don't know. I don't know if they can continue to hide him. I would. I don't think they would. But nevertheless, like I said, we need better resources there. Definitely a hole at the left guard position that needs to be fixed. Just talking about protecting the quarterback and backups, like we mentioned before. Luke Fortner is a good center. Will Sherman did all right. Asim Richards we traded for, he did all right as well. So, continue to address the backup offensive line. We had all these injuries happening. We were able to cycle guys in and out. So just continuing that trend of keeping and getting quality backups either through drafting or free agency, keeping that going, man, because injuries hit our offensive line all the time. We have to be prepared for that. And of course, also we talk about the skill positions, like the running back position. We'll start that with Alvin Kamara getting up in age, be healthy, ready to go. We'll get Kendre Miller back in his final year of his rookie deal. There'll be Devin Neal, who was doing really good before he got hurt. That's another guy that we'll have to look at. So it's a couple of players from the running back position that we have to look at, but they do have some good runners in the draft. Hell, they might have one from Notre Dame that might be ready at 8. do you take them there? So when the Saints build that big board, 30 to 50 players that, and then rank them according to their scouts, and then say, okay, if this guy is available, do we take him? Be a possibility you might have to replace an Alontae Taylor. Could be a possibility that a guy, the running back from Notre Dame, falls to you at 8, and that guy is a beast. So do the Saints do that? Do they give Tyler Shough a top-notch running back there? Do they go with the wide receiver from Ohio State there, or the guy from Arizona State? I like the Ohio State better than the guy from Arizona State. But, but the reality is there are options that we'll look at that you want to use. But Alvin Kamara, you can't deny that. Just to find, like, Audric Estime would definitely be a guy I bring back, but he's a reserve back. But Devin Neal was still unproven, even though he did what he did. He still is unproven young running back. Kendre Miller can't stay healthy, so we know we can't count on him. And Elvin's getting old, so at some point to keep your offense upbeat and moving in the right direction, you might have to consider if you build a board and that running back is there. Depending on what you're looking like, right? And of course, we talk about the wide receiver position, and like we just mentioned, there's several wide receivers. And of course, you don't have to draft there. You can also kind of add talent through free agency. There'll be a lot of talented wide receivers and running backs in there. It just depends on what the Saints are willing to do. Are they willing to spend a lot of money on a veteran wide receiver in the draft, or just pay for Chris Olave? And then remember, they still have other talent as well. The Saints still have the likes of, even though they're not showing them here because these guys are hurt, but they still have Divine Valley. Remember, we looking at picking up talent in the draft, but remember who you have. The Saints kind of traded picks early on. That's how they end up with Asim Richards. Getting Asim Richards from the Texans, the Dallas Cowboys, getting him there, claiming Xavier Truss, off the waiver wire, adding him to the backup offensive lineman. Then the Saints went about the business of trading picks to get Divine Valley. They gave up 2 picks, late picks, to get Divine Valley here. And you seen what he did in the limited time that he was here. He'll be healthy and back in the lineup, so you'll have hopefully Chris Olave, Chris Olave, Divine Valley. You'll have also Jalen Polk. Remember, the Saints gave up a 6th-round pick, I think it was, for a wide receiver who was drafted in the 2nd round, and he was hurt. So that was a move like, why are we doing that? You'll see why. You'll see why when he's healthy. But you have those guys available as well. So at some point, Saints will have options in which direction they want to go in the draft. So it's definitely key to me. Like, you got a hole at the left guard position. You still need help at the backup guard position. You get that in free agency. The tight end position, even though Juwan Johnson is the top guy, did Matavo show you enough to say, hey, man, we need to develop this kid? I would say during the 3 or 4 games that Matavo played, Matavo he lined up as a fullback. He lined up as a tight end. His blocking was decent. He was catching the ball with his hands and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just really intrigued by the fact we got a tall quarterback in Tyler Shough, who's 6'5", and Matavo, who's 6'8". Could you imagine the chemistry that a Matavo, who was very productive at UCLA as a big tight end, in the red zone, what kind of chemistry and synergy they can have, and how Kellen Moore can ultimately down the line be able to use a 6'8" tight end in the red zone? Could you imagine that for a second? It's phenomenal. So that's a part of it. And like I said, there are other additives to kind of draw about that thing. But yeah, wide receiver is definitely a position you want to do. But Kevin Austin Jr. could be a guy that could really be around there. And there's other wide receivers like Mason Tipton who could fill in the slot. But Saints gave up picks for 2 guys. Chris Olave's there, Divine Valley, just who they acquired from Denver for multiple picks, and from the Patriots, Jalen Polk. So those guys are in the mix as well. Whoever you get in the draft, if you choose to draft in the draft, I don't know if you get one high. Depends on what you're looking at, right? And of course, we pivot to the defensive side of things, right? Brian Bresee should be healthy the upcoming season. We know. I think Jonathan Bullard. I think he had a 1-year deal. So did Jonah Williams. I think he had a 1-year deal too, and I think John Ridgway might be up. But Jonathan Bullard and Jonah Williams, those guys will be cheap signings. I think you definitely re-sign those men, no doubt about it. I think Bullard was phenomenal as a reserve defensive lineman. Jonah Williams got 3 sacks, and he was at edge, and they kicked him inside. Those guys work really well in Coach Staley's defense. They allowed players to be fresh in the game. Like, you see how guys were firing off because Coach Staley's lineups were really good, to the point where they had a lot of those guys were refreshed and going in there and making an impact. So I think Jonah Williams and Jonathan Bullard are two guys that we should definitely consider signing back. The kind of pair. And of course, with Demario Davis coming back and Cam Jordan coming back for another year, you still have Pete Werner there. And then Danny Stutzman, kind of a co-starter with Pete Werner, was positive. Stutzman had over 50 tackles. I know Werner had 70-plus tackles, but Stutzman had over 50 tackles in his rookie campaign. He was in there laying the wood. He was doing some positive stuff. Really happy about that. Stallbird is a special teams ace. Jalen Ford was doing some positive stuff before he got hurt, but it's interesting to see what happened. Chris Rumph II's another interesting player for him. I think he's on a one-year deal to see if he comes back. But then when you hit the secondary up, Alontae Taylor's a big question mark. I think he could be priced out of the Saints' reach. He possibly could, if we focus on Chris Olave, do the Saints then turn and pay Alontae Taylor? He ain't gonna be looking for nothing cheap. He says it's his first time in free agency, and they usually look to get paid. We'll see. But Quincy Riley, Jonas Sanker, Kool-Aid McKinstry all show positive signs. Jordan Howden, even as when he got in there, did some positive stuff. And the Saints always seem to find some undrafted defensive backs that always seem to kind of move up and help and look good. So that's also a thing. So that's some of the stuff you're kind of looking at when you look at it. And then, of course, you go on to the special teams. Charlie Smith is here, so is Zach Wood. But Kai Kroger, probably one of the guys that we're going to have to look at and consider having or sending some talent to compete with him at that level. He didn't really kick as well as we want. And we need to see much better improvement from our special teams. I think that's Galliano. If any one of the coaches were on the hot seat, and I'm not saying that they are, the positional coaches, the special teams coach got to do better. No doubt about it. All right. Anyway, man, let's keep this thing moving. Remember, y'all, this show is brought to you by FanDuel. Y'all can feel free to check out the wildcard odds and predictions, the money line here, man. There's a lot of stuff going on with these matchups. You can see right here, Rams and Panthers matchup. So it's a lot of stuff going on. Y'all can check out the odds at FanDuel, just to let y'all know. All right, bouncing back to Tankathon. This is from the Tankathon. This is some of the top prospects currently available, thought to be available for the upcoming NFL Draft 2026. These are some top talent. Arvell Reese from Ohio State is seen as one of the top targets. This is a linebacker with 6.5 sacks for, once again, Ohio State. Ruben Bain is a really excellent. He's considered the best edge rusher in this draft. 6'3", 280, 8.5 sacks. These men, I think, will be gone before the Saints get them. Caleb Downs, the fantastic safety at Ohio State, has a lot of range, really smart player, just a ball hawk, really smart player. Fernando Mendoza, who is currently leading Indiana, man, they're in the hunt to win a college championship. I mean, they're just doing phenomenal things, man. Just to be honest, they just wiped the floor with Alabama the past weekend. And Mendoza is just balling. 6'5", 225, over 3,000 yards, 36 touchdowns against 6 interceptions. Rating of 184.7. If Mendoza come out, he's headed toward the Raiders. I guarantee you that. He's seen as probably, they're saying he's the true only number one quarterback in the draft, like a number one first-round pick quarterback, should I say. They consider him, even though Dante Moore had a lot of positive things going on at Oregon. He could benefit. There's some people saying he was thinking about staying at Oregon. But if Mendoza goes, they're going to be looking to reach at quarterback. They do it every year. And Moore should stay where he is. If he's going into the draft, he more than likely will probably end up with the Jets. So that's going to be interesting. All right, anyway, Cornell Tate is the best wide receiver, 6'3", 190 plus, 51 catches, 9 touchdowns, averages 17 yards per catch. Imagine having that type of production in the Who Dat Nation. Jordan Tyson, wide receiver from Arizona State, 6'2", 200 pounds, 61 catches, 8 touchdowns, almost 12 yards per catch. Another big name receiver. Like I said, Jordan's good. I like Cornell Tate a little bit better, I think. But Tyson's a little faster than Cornell, but Cornell has good route running, sure-handed, really intelligent wide receiver. We like the Ohio State wide receivers. Spencer Fano is one of the top tackles in the draft. You can see more. Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. This is the best running back in this draft, over 1,300 yards, 6 feet, 220 pounds, 18 rushing touchdowns, average 7 yards a rush. Has 280 receiving yards and 3. So you can see Jeremiah Love is seen as the best back in the draft. And man, I've seen the kid play. The man has an NFL build. He can do a lot of positive stuff for your offense. And listen, man, if the Saints get an offensive line and they put Jeremiah Love back there, Chris Olave and all the weapons we got, it's building something special. This draft here could be really added to the 25 draft, because the 25 draft was a solid draft for us, right? We got a lot of starters out of this draft. You know, you talk about Kelvin Banks Jr., you talk about Jonas Sanker, you talk about even co-starters like Danny Stutzman, even developmental tight end like Matavo Fadil Diggs, even though he didn't play a lot, he can be a factor. You still got Vernon Brockton, the 3rd round draft pick, who they see as a solid potential interior defensive lineman. They can move around. So you got players, Quincy Riley, who's your starting nickel back. So the Saints got some really impressive players, a lot of really good players out of 25 class. I'm going to keep it all the way funky with you. If they can replicate the success they did in 2025 and have another solid draft to add to the 25 draft, the Saints will be exponentially further along than most of these other people that have 1 or 2 good picks and then they blow out or bomb out on the draft. We can move this thing forward really quick. All right, other people to talk about: David Bailey, the edge rusher from Texas. He got 14.5 sacks. Clemson's defensive interior lineman Peter Woods, another big one, 6'3", 300 plus. Keldrick Falk from Auburn's another solid edge rusher. Francis Magoa, who is an offensive tackle. Some say you can kick him into at guard for the Miami team, who's still playing for the national championship. Shout out to my Tigers. Mansour Delaney, who's looked at as the best cornerback in this draft. Could this be a guy that the Saints pick up because they can't get Alontae Taylor back? We pivot to Mansour Delaney, 45 tackles, 2 picks for the Tigers. Cornerback Jermiah McCoy, 6 feet, 200-pound physical cornerback from Tennessee. He has 4 interceptions and 44 tackles. He'll come up and knock you down. Sonny Styles, the linebacker, 6'4", 240-plus pounds from Ohio State, 82 tackles, 3 pass defense. The guy is very athletic. Mekhi Lemon from USC is another one. And, of course, you can look at the rest of these guys and see for yourself that there are a lot of talent in this draft that the Saints could use. Ty Simpson's another interesting quarterback. He had an injury, a back injury. I don't know how that's going to impact him in the draft. And that loss. Cassius Howell from Texas A&M. This guy's ranked 26. He should be a little higher. This dude, even though he's kind of seen as an edge guy, 6'2", 250, more of a linebacker build type. But a lot of comparisons, I almost say to Von Miller. There's, since, because they went to the second, but with Von with the Texas, was it Texas or Texas A&M? I think Von was at Texas. Y'all remind me. But anyway, it's a lot of comparisons. They were putting Cassius Howell to Von Miller. But anyway, the guy, 11.5 sacks. He is a complete beast. In terms of getting pressure. He's athletic. This guy could possibly go a little higher than that. And, of course, other people. You talk about Concepcion, the wide receiver from Texas A&M with 61 catches, 9 touchdowns, averaging 51 yards a catch. So take your pick. It's a lot of talent in this draft. How about Chris Bell, the former wide receiver, a Louisville wide receiver, who is familiar with him? I don't think we get Bell. Emmanuel Pregnon is another dude that I like, an interior offensive lineman graded as one of the tops in this class. So it's a lot of different people. We'll go into more of this draft stuff because we got all the time in the world now to mock draft and do all this other kind of stuff. We'll break down all these players on Jadarian Price, the other Notre Dame running back, is also a really good back. But he's, you kind of understand the other dynamic that you had a starter ahead of you that was getting a lot of major minutes. But both those running backs will go in the first and the other one probably in the second round. When you got a guy like Love ahead of you, ain't nothing you can do about that. But Jadarian Price is another solid running back. So like I said, a lot of talent in the draft, a lot of places the Saints can go. But the bottom line is we got to build a team through the draft in the 2025 class that will benefit us and build around our young quarterback. Here's one of the mock drafts from the Tankathon currently talk about as the draft's laying out. You can see Fernando Mendoza is the top quarterback. They're giving him to the Raiders, and that's going to be interesting. They got to build. They do have a fantastic young running back there, excellent tight end there, so they have the pieces. They still got to build up an offensive line. They need weapons. So Fernando Mendoza, love the guy, temperament, love his positivity. He's going to need all that if the Raiders take him. Then, of course, you see the Jets, Dante Moore, going there that's a tough place for a rookie quarterback to play. It's going to be tough there, and they traded a lot of assets away. I don't see the Jets winning right away. We'll see how they handle that. That's on Glenn. That's where he decided to go. Marvell Reese, they got him going to the Cardinals at the linebacker, helping improve that defense. Ruben Bain headed to the Titans in this mock draft. Carnell Tate, the wide receiver from Ohio State, going to the Giants to help out Jackson Dart. We got Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, going to Cleveland for Shedeur or Dylan Gabriel, whoever they is going to be their quarterback, whoever going to be their coach. The Washington Whataburgers, they pick up Caleb Downs in the top-notch safety from Ohio State to help that defense out. And look at the Saints. They got Saints lined up with Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. Now, this is interesting because a lot of people don't perceive the Saints taking a running back with the first-round draft pick. Let me tell you something. This kid's high on people's boards. Number one running back, the Saints are high enough to get an impact player. So one of these guys is going to fall to him, whether it's a top-notch wide receiver, a top 10 wide receiver, or the best running back in a draft. And he's seen as a guy that more than likely is going to be there. So outside of that, if you're the New Orleans Saints, you got an 8th pick in the draft. If you're going to stand there and keep that pick, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to trade the pick or to acquire more draft picks and move back a little further? Or are you going to land an impact player to help out your franchise quarterback? Or, you see what I'm saying? What do you do with that pick? That's the question. That'll be inside. But getting Jeremiah Love, the top running back in this draft class with the pick, if you stay there, would definitely impact the running back room because Alvin Kamara is not what he used to be. Got a lot of injuries mounting up on him. He could still be a compliment for this guy. And I think he got this year and next year left remaining on this deal. I want to say for AK-41 before his contract is expired. You owe him 11.5 this year. No, actually, this is Alvin Kamara's last year. Alvin Kamara's last year is this year. So if you pick up Jeremiah Love, you're justified, to be honest with you. Look at the contract. AK-41 right here, 2026, 31 years of age, 11.5. You got voided years for the rest of the way. So this is actually his last year on this deal. So the Jeremiah Love pick would be justified if you went running back here, but it just depends on where your board stands. A lot of people say wide receiver. Me personally, I like to go offensive line, but taking one of those, there's not a guard that's ranked that high. Some of the guards, the interior guards, are ranked toward the middle of the draft or outside of the top 10. Now this could change as the scouting combine happen. Was this is some fluctuation that could happen here because there's talk about Francis McGoy that he can also kick inside the guard and all this kind of stuff. You start seeing these guys that play mostly tackle in college start pivoting and say, hey man, listen, I'll do what you want me to do, like what Will Campbell did when they talked about kicking him inside. He was a blindside tackle for most of his career in college, and then all of a sudden when they got to the draft, they was asking him, would you kick inside? And he was saying, I'll do whatever you want me to do. So that kind of thing happens as well. So like I said, we still a ways away from this happening. We'll see once, when the names become finalized, guys come out, and then we'll see how the board will kind of fluctuate once when they hit Indianapolis and start doing the combine and all this kind of stuff. It always seems to fluctuate. But it's a lot of direction, family, that we can go in, right?